Welcome to Friday Night Dinos. It's Friday night. Are you ready to draw and have a good time? I hope so. My name is Wendy, and I am on the Wendy Makes Art channel, where every Friday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, that's 8 o'clock East Coast time, we draw dinosaurs. So from 6 to 7, you can watch me draw dinosaurs. In fact, you might just want to watch, and then later on, you can go back and draw it yourself. Visit FridayNightDinos.com and you can download the image that we're working on today. So you can download that image right there. And I have it set up as close as possible. It's going to be a little off. You'll see this is what we're painting. So this is an example that I had painted of this in gouache. And you can see this on my website as well. It is available for purchase. And let's see, I think with that, we're going to get drawing. So let me get started here. I'm going to sit this out of the way. We'll just come over here and add him to the scene behind me. You can kind of see over there. And let me grab some pencils and an eraser. So I like to start out with pencil, and typically I would draw with a lighter pencil. So here is a much lighter pencil. This little guy I absolutely love, but it is getting down to the nubbins. And I start out and try to figure out where do I want to place these items. Now I have it cropped pretty well down in the corner. So as you can see, it's cropped pretty well over there, right there. And I did measure out an 8 by 10, and I drew my border on a larger sheet. The reason I do that is so that if I want to move the composition, I don't always need to erase it. I can just move my lines that are on the edges. So not a big deal. And with that, we're going to get started. So I'm trying to kind of figure out which dinosaur I want to be the main figure and where I want him to kind of live. How big is he? And so I don't think that you all can see this. No, I can barely see it on screen. So I'm going to switch to the darker pencil. And we'll just jump on here and kind of gauge where he falls. And I'm trying to divide this space in thirds. Like if that is from there to there and there to there, here to here, the apple's a little taller than that height. So that's the bottom of my apple, which is a good space. So now I'm going to kind of start to draw in where all of that is. If I start to make big oval shapes to kind of suggest where everything is, you know, here's his nose. That's an oval. There's an ovalish space right here where his head is. So you can kind of see those. Here's his neck. And it's, you know, I could do a couple ovals in this. So one right here. And somebody joined me. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Welcome to Friday Night Dinos. I'm just getting started. So let's see if I can chat in here and say welcome. I get the new card for a while. When I get real fancy, I'm going to do emojis. Like, let's do maybe a party emoji. I don't know. Let's see what we can find that's party-like. There's all these little emojis. Oh, here's a dancing dinosaur. We'll just do that right there. Okay. So I'm now looking at just big shapes so I can see how how well this thing builds out, where he might sit in space. And I'm going to do his nose right here. Here we go. That's going to come up in there. And then where does this apple sit right here? And how does this overall picture look? So I know that I've got an apple. It comes way out beyond his front nose from my viewpoint. Again, your artwork is going to be slightly different than mine. My little dinosaurs. There we go. Hi, Mid Lebowski. Oh, you have a fancy dinosaur in yours. I didn't find that one quickly, and I don't know that everybody who's drawing or watching me draw wants to see me search through emojis because I'm a novice, and that's not my expertise yet. Give me time, everybody. I'll get better at it. So I'm just gauging this apple. Now, I know I got a lot of rough stuff going on in here. I'll clean that up with the eraser here in a second. But for now, I'm just trying to gauge where everything is. I know his arm is going to come out here. It's going to be this fantastic little shape. And look at your negative shape as well as your positive. And by negative shape, I mean the space in between things. The positive shape are the things. So the apple is a positive shape. The negative shape is a space between the apple and the other object being the dinosaur. So this is your negative shape in here. And if you look at your negative shapes, it's going to help you draw things because we don't want to draw things. We want to draw shapes. We want to draw value, light and darks. And the best way to do that is to get out of our head. Just get out of our head a little bit because sometimes our head will mess us up especially when we're drawing. So his nose is a lot higher than I originally, by his time his teeth are here and his teeth fall in here. Is that enough space? So I got to make sure that his front nose is high enough. And this will come up here. And be kind to yourself. Remember, it's very rare that someone will see if you're out painting outside, if they'll see the exact scene. And even then, there's always some room for interpretation of your own. You may move things. I know I've been known to remove telephone poles, to move a tree, to pretend a tree doesn't exist. There's a lot that happens when you're drawing something. And you may say, you know what, I think it'll look better. That is artistic license, and that's where all that creativity comes in. So use that to your advantage. Do not ever feel like you are stuck because you're not. This is your little world that you're drawing. All right, so coming in here, still building my dinosaur a bit. I look at where this crazy neck waddle, what does that shape look like? It almost looks like a little, like a really fat snow pea right in here. And then he's got a line on his neck that comes up to the joint right there. And it helps me, marking these things in really helps me gauge where everything is on the page because I want to make sure that as I draw them, I'm getting a good feel for where they belong in space. And again, I'm checking my inside spaces as well as my outside spaces. So I'm going to come down here and really pay attention. Sometimes when I look at stuff, let me get my hand close so you can kind of see, I will kind of narrow my eyes. I'll hold the pencil angle and then I'll look down at my art. And I really try to match that angle so that the line is high enough or low enough or it's going at the right plane. So it's something that you can try out and something that will definitely help you measure where things are in space. So a little bit of his nose. Now down below, he's got one finger. So as I go around this curve of the apple, what I've been looking at is where does his other finger touch it? I know his finger touches it. And I'm really looking at my in-betweens. Where does everything sit? How close does this finger get? What does the inside shape right in here between his little tiny hands? Looking at what those look like. It's got this little bumpity right there. And then up his neck a little bit. It is a little obnoxious. Now, I brought today, this is one of my favorite things, and I'll show you guys. This is a Mono Zero. Let's see if the camera will freak out. Mono Zero eraser. And believe it or not, the tip, that teeny tiny little tip, has an eraser on it. Now, if you've watched before, I've talked about this where my hands are going to get dirty. They're going to get dirty from the pencil. I could put something down on this, but then you will not be able to see what I'm drawing. So if you're drawing at home and nobody's watching, then you can take a piece of, just could be like paper from the copier, or a piece of vellum or tracing paper or something, and you can lay it under your hand, and you're less likely to smear this mess around. But again, the only reason I'm not doing that is you will not see a thing I'm drawing if I cover it up to protect the rest of the drawing. And I also think it's important that, which is why like a transparent sheet would work really well, is that you see where all your shapes are and where you're drawing. And I want to be able to see all that. So I'm just going in here, erase it. I'm trying not to shake. I'm on a new table and it's a lot sturdier, so I'm trying not to shake the camera too much. It is shaking a little bit. Then your trick, now this was sitting dry, so I'm gonna get these bristles nice and make sure that it's dry all the way through, because I don't want to drag water over it at this point. But I can take this and I won't make too much of a mess or drag the dirt that I've gotten on the side of my hand from drawing on here and drag it across. So I just take my pen, my clean brush, clean and dry brush, and I brush off the artwork like that. All right, so I'm getting down here. I've got his little arm to do. I am excited to say that you're going to see in the lineup, I have a few weeks out still, but in the lineup, I have some new dinosaurs, and I'm really excited about the new dinosaurs. My wonderful husband, you know, what did you get for Valentine's Day? I got dinosaurs for Valentine's Day. So I have a whole bunch of new dinosaurs. I'll give you, you want a sneak peek? I'll give you a sneak peek. So one of these guys, he's a blue dinosaur. I'll just show you. This is one of them, and we'll be drawing this. I'll probably try him out with a Smurf too, because I thought, what does a blue dinosaur eat? Like flamingos, I know they give them, I think, food coloring, but they eat shrimp, and they're pink. So a blue dinosaur would need to eat Cookie Monster and Smurfs. Which is really, really fun. So that's just a little sneak peek. There's a whole set of dinosaurs over on my shelf system over here, and they are dying to get in on the action. So yes, Eraser Kim, that was happening. All right, little arm, back to the little arm. I'm sorry, I just totally got off on a toy dino tangent. So here's his little arm. Bring this up, and I'm going to get a new pointy pencil and come in here. Now, I'm really looking at where does this meet under here. I drew this line, but that's not where the bottom of his belly is. The bottom of his belly is a little lower, and I don't want it too long. I really want to watch if this has a wrinkle in here under his belly, and there's a wrinkle in here under his belly. and then there's a triangle mark. I really want to see where this foot ends. And that's important. We're going to try to measure that out and make sure that we get the angles right. And here's how I do that. So I come down here, draw the bottom of the apple, or the idea of the bottom of the apple. And I look here, where is the lowest point in his foot? So I'm really looking at this apple and gauging where his foot sits in space down below. And where does his front toenail now sit? So this is where the bottom lowest toenail goes. And it's a little higher than that, but I'm going to leave it right there because I like it right there. Where does the top of that foot go? And what does that space in between look like? And now his leg comes down and then it curls around. So here's the top of it. Now I know that the beginning of this top toenail starts about the area below his elbow. So here's his elbow. I'm looking straight down and I'm getting a good feel. Again, your artwork is completely different. The shadows are going to be different. I got it as close as I could in my setup, but I can't get it exactly perfect to what I originally drew it because it was in a different location. It wasn't on this table. I was sitting down. I'm standing up now. So this situation makes it a little different, and that has a lot to do with where everything is in space. So here's his second toenail. So there's this foot, this big old toenail. This comes up here. And then I look and I say, okay, well, where does this second toenail, how far out does it come? What does the space in between each of these look like? Okay. And I come in here, I'm going to draw the bottom of this toenail. And now I'm going to come out and do my final toenail. So, and really, I'm really paying attention to where does this line right under here. I've got a little bit of foreshortening, meaning it's not when you foreshorten something, you have something close to you. And even though the leg is really far behind here, the distance between here and here is not what you're going to draw because you're looking from one point, not looking sideways at it. So they call that foreshortening. And I probably explained that all crazy. I'm going to come out here, draw the back of his heel, and then he's got these muscly legs. So I want to draw his muscles. And I can tell you right now, this foot is not quite right. It's too fat. It's not. So I'm going to come down here and come down in here. This line goes up here, right up kind of the middle of there. Eraser cam. And I'm actually going to make his arm taller and bring this down here, up here. So we're gonna raise his belly because I didn't have his arm quite long enough, which meant everything was cattywampus. It was all out of whack. And that's just it. When you have something out of whack and you draw it that way, you'll know something is off. You'll be like, oh, that's not quite right. I don't know what I did, but it's just not quite right. And so my little dude was not quite right. But I think he's back on track. So, and then I'm going to bring his leg back. And we won't see any of that. So again, if you need the angle, take a look at it, look at your thing, and really gauge what that angle is. Now he's got this shape coming back here. And this is going to tell me if I did his back high enough. I can tell you right now, I don't think I did. I think his back should have been higher. like up in here. So I'll draw this arching space here, this here. He's got a little bit of a marking on the top of where his bones are inside that meet the top of that arm right here. And then there's a little bit of his back right here. And what I'm looking for is, what is this shape right here? How far between this yellow mark and this is this back? And then I see a tiny hint of his other hip bone. So I'm going to come in here and just draw that other hip bone right there. Because you kind of get a little bit of an angle on this dino, at least I do from my perspective. So we will not see his back leg. Like his back leg would, his toe, we will see. So his toe is right here. And the only thing I'm going to really pay attention to is what comes into frame. That's all that will come into frame right now, because I don't think I'm going to move this back and forth at all. So I'm just going to leave that little toe of his in there. Now I may see, in fact I will, I know I'll see them down here, this toe as well. So we're going to draw this little guy right here. And that's going to be in frame. So there's one dino somewhat down. I'm going to clean up his mouth a little bit down here where his teeth are going to go. And you'll see where I took my hand, really made a mess. I'm going to clean this up. Hi! Somebody else joined. Welcome. Hey there. I'm going to send you a little dino to say, Happy Dino, I'm so glad you're here. All right. Thanks for joining. We are well into half of the image. If you want to draw along, feel free to draw along. You can download the image at FridayNightDinos.com. You can also see past episodes there. This will live on Twitch for the next week, and then it will move to YouTube. I have those all linked on FridayNightDinos.com. You may just want to watch this time around, and then if you decide to draw your own dinos, you can download the image or go buy some dinosaur toys, because that is so fun. So definitely go get some dinosaur toys. And then we'll paint this in about 7 o'clock. We'll start painting. So I'm going to try to get this all in now. And then we'll go into the dinosaur after party, what I call lovingly the after party, which involves paint, my favorite thing. Check out my t-shirt, everybody. Distance Raptor divided by Time Raptor. Velociraptor. Yeah, so fun. Okay, so now I'm going to get this other guy, and I'm really going to pay attention to where is his nose compared to where is his nose, and how big is his nose. So again, I want to do ovals or real simple shapes. Coming in here, here's this one. There's an oval right here where his eye is going to be, or a circle-ish, more like a chunky egg. Where is the bottom of his jaw in relation, and how far from here? So if I come out here, it looks like his jaw is in there. His tongue's going to come up right there. And how big is that? So again, remember, we're looking at where all these shapes and spaces and sizes fit. Now, I did not account, he's got teeth in here. He's got a big old tongue that's going to be super fun to draw. So I've got his tongue in here. which tells me I did not draw his jaw low enough. And this has to be long enough to go back in here. So where does that take his jaw? And his jaw comes all the way back here. There was that oval and there. And then he's got this angle right on the bottom of it. And I come up here and I'm really paying attention from here. What is the angle? And again, look at all of these shapes in between. Where is everything sitting in space? This has like a triangle shape. So I know back here, there is a triangle shape that comes from there to about there. This kind of comes up and fits in here, which gives me the back of that triangle. So my triangle was a little wonky. And then this is going to come over. Now, above his thing, his tongue, is where his other eye falls. So I really want to gauge where that eye sits. And then we have the back of the head. Now remember, this is pencil, so we can fix everything. Even if this were paint, we could still fix everything. So don't feel like don't get mad at yourself if you draw something and you have to correct it. Just take a deep breath. Ask yourself, well, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? Right? Now I'm looking right now, just so you know, I'm looking, where is the bottom of his chest? If I go across here and look at the dinosaurs in front of me, where does the bottom of his chest fall? And from his neck, how thick is this? Where does the top fall? So if I were to draw a line from the middle of his tongue to the back of his head, it's going to fall in around there. And he's got these fantastic feathery, chunky things. I'm not going to worry too much about them, but I want to know that they're chunky up there. I'm going to get this angle in right here for the top of his mouth and above his teeth. So right there is above his jaggedy little teeth. They're going to come down and they'll end right about there. And then he's got this fantastic old tongue, big old tongue. He wants a bite of that apple. And I'm going to come in here like that. And then let's work a little bit on top of this eye. So coming in on top of the eye, do some erasing right in here. And where's his arm? He's got a little teeny tiny arm, just a tiny little arm. Poor little guy, man. He's got it rough. So little tiny arm right in here. And I'm looking again, where is it compared to the apple? I'm a little high. So if I go across from here, his top of his hand should be there. I was just, a 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch down, but I really want to be able to get it somewhat right so he doesn't look off. And then I'm looking in here, he's got this little chest. I can just see the pointies of his little fingers. So where's his little fingers sitting in space? And then again, here's his two little simple fingers. And give him his little wee arm. His little wee arm. Just gonna go right in there. And his belly's gonna come down here. Again, if you need the angle, take your pencil and start working that angle and come in. The rest of him is going to be off the page. So we're going to start to draw this out a little more and get some more detail, clean up some of my marks, and let's hit a little bit of the shadows. Now, I did mention the shadows in the photo in the corner right there, and also the photo that you can download are going to be slightly different than this. So the photo that you can download is from when I painted the piece, which is back on the easel, way back there. I don't know if you can see that. And if you're just coming in, I'll show you that real quick. So this will show you the piece that we're working towards. Need a little drink. How is everybody doing out there? You watching dinos? Anyone drawing? Let's see. If those little rear fingers are too small to paint, could bring the arm out a bit too. Yes, and remember what I said. This is your drawing. This is your artwork. So if you were doing this and you thought, that looks too weird, because that's a good point. Mid Lebowski had a great point. Here's the thing. This looks funny. And I'm just drawing what I see, so I'm not thinking big picture. And I love that you brought this up. Big picture is an outsider's going to look at that and go, oh, I love it. What are those funky little things coming out of the corner here? So always feel free to improvise, in which case I'm going to take that little arm out and I'm going to pretend that he's reaching. So he's reaching out for that apple. His other little hand is going to mirror this one very close. I mean, it's a two-fingered little hand. So if I bring this out, now there's no question. There's no question that on what the little things are in the corner. Now we know it's a little arm and he's going for the apple. So always feel free to go ahead and change your composition to make it make sense. That's why when I'm out painting, I'll remove telephone poles. Not always. I fully admit, I love drawing telephone poles. I love the wires that come down. I love the birds that sit on top. I love that it shows that there's a human there. I think that telephone poles are the coolest things. But sometimes they will sit right in the middle of a drawing and you don't want them in there, right? Because then it's like Austin Powers, mole, 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 same thing. So you got to get rid of it when it doesn't make sense. So you don't have any mole, mole, moles. So, okay, so I'm coming in here, working the back of his head a little bit. Now I'm going to do some cleanup. So I'm really looking and saying, okay, what did I jog around and not draw out of just trying to get the big composition, or maybe I just wasn't in the mood to draw it yet. And I think I've said this before. When you are drawing, do what keeps you interested. So if you feel like you're like, oh, I don't want to draw that right now, or oh, I'll get to that later, or something else really excites you, like, oh man, I can't wait to draw all the feathers on top of his head, which, by the way, are one of those things that you'll see me just kind of go, we'll just throw some squiggly marks in there. But somebody else may take a look at that and think that is the cat's meow. That is the most exciting thing ever to draw. So we all have our own things that we really, really love to draw. I had, in college, you're going to love this, I had a friend who loved to draw details, all kinds of little teeny tiny details. And she would do art based off the inside. She would open up her car and draw all of the wires and the little tiny things inside and make these intricate artworks out of it. I don't have the patience for that. I think I would probably lose my mind if I was, but maybe someday I'll find that that is the most awesome thing ever to draw. I mean, I am a lady who draws dinosaurs, so I can't judge at all. Okay. So like I said, he's got all of these feathery things. What I'm trying to determine right now is where his eye sits in here. So I'm going to draw a little eye, little dot in it. And then he's got like a little eye thing around there. And we'll paint that in as we go. His hairs, these crazy hairs of his. I'm just going to draw some marks. And I can do more faster with paint to indicate what is going on with that. I'm going to go back over to this guy and draw that. I love this little part in his mouth. It's like my favorite thing is that stretchy stuff in his jaw. I don't know why I like it so much, but I love this little pink stretchy piece in his jaw. I think because it makes me realize, like, these guys, like they really could open their mouths crazy wide. And then the power of those chompers, it's got to be it. I don't know what else it would be, but I love his big old jaw. Now I can see a tooth in shadow from the backside before his tooth line comes in here. So gotta try to size these right. I may not have an exact tooth count, so I'm not gonna worry too much about it. If I have any major super dinosaur accurate museum people who watch this, please don't hate on me if I get the wrong number of teeth, because A, I just love dinosaurs, and B, I'm drawing toys. So now if I go do a museum piece, which we'll be doing a museum field trip at some point and drawing from the museum, which is way fun to go draw bones because you really get a feel for their anatomy when you draw the bones. Then all you museum lovers out there and dinosaur experts, then you guys can send me a note and say, yo, Wendy, that dinosaur has 398 teeth. You drew 396. I wonder if there's a dinosaur. I'm wondering if one of those the crocodile-like ones, if any of them have that many teeth. There had to have been something. Can you imagine coming across that where, you're an herbivore, you're just hanging out for a while, doing your own little thing, and here comes this dinosaur with over 300 teeth just coming at you. That would be so scary. Those are scary critters. They're adorable here. They'd be totally, totally scary out in real life. Okay, I'm going to come back over to this guy. So you see how I jump around? That is my attention span. In part of it, I really like to bring the whole thing up and just move around it and work it all together. So part of it is just my style of how I like to work. I eat the same way, by the way. I will move all around the plate. And I have a friend, I don't know if she's on here or not. She'll eat one thing at a time. So next time I watch her draw, I'm going to see if she draws one thing at a time. But she's an artist too. And I want to see if she draws one thing at a time, if she's on here, because I've got like incognito there. And I'll see if she's like that when she draws, but I draw like I eat. Okay, he's got this little, I call this his ear section. It reminds me of my chickens. I have chickens. I've got 8 chickens. It's Still chilly here. It's still considered winter. It's not, spring is close, but it's February, so it's still winter. And in the winter, they need all the feathers they can get. So they don't seem to pick on each other as much. We did do a little bit of changing. I say we. There was no we involved in the we did changing of things. It was all my husband. But we did, haha, it's totally not we. He took, we had a yellow light in there. We thought, oh, they need to see at night because we baby them a little bit. And we think that they were just fighting all night long. You know, the pecking order is for reals. There's definitely a pecking order. And so we had one little chicken who was always having to sleep in the nest box because everybody was picking on her. So he took the light out of the coop. Now, this did happen to be in the winter, and they are 4. They're getting to be old ladies. In chicken years, 4 is old. Well, it's probably middle-aged chicken. I think they live to like 6 to 8. So middle-aged chicken years. I totally relate to that. I resemble that chicken years statement. Anyway, my chickens stopped kicking each other off the roofs at night. There's a lot less balking. Like we don't hear them. We used to hear them settle down at bedtime. Like we could actually hear them from inside the house, settling down, balking at each other, flapping around, kicking each other off perches. And we don't hear that anymore. So I'll get to my point. Boy, I'm a talker, aren't I? They're beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful right now. They're spoiled. They get treats. So my husband goes out and gives them cracked corn and mixed stuff. They love him. They follow him around. And they're so fat and their feathers are full. They're beautiful. They absolutely are beautiful. We named them when they were little, but there's only one. They're all the same breed. They're called Rhode Island Reds. And we still had our son was still home at the time. Oh, yes, we're empty nesters now. But he was still home and as a teenage boy ate a lot. So we had high producing egg layers, which is great until there's 2 of you and 8 chickens and making almost an egg a day. So I took them into coworkers and but then this fall they really slowed down and then they stopped. They just stopped laying eggs this winter. I don't care. They're beautiful. They're more like pets than anything else. But we do like our chickens. So I had one, she's lighter than the rest in her coloring on her belly, and she's a little smaller. She was sick. I had several that were sick that I nursed back to health when they were born. And we mail ordered them. They were mail ordered chickens. So we ordered our chickens through the mail. And the post office, it's already peep season because I was at the post office not long ago. And I walked in and I lit up from ear to ear smiling. And the lady came out and I said, "It's peep season." And she started to chuckle. They had gotten a shipment in. But as soon as they're born, they put them in a box. They're all together and they can live, I think it's 48 hours or 72 hours. It's 2 or 3 days off of I think it's like part of their egg sac that they're born with, and they don't need food. And so I was really blessed. All of our chickens arrived alive. That's not always the case. Sometimes they get too cold, especially if it's early. We had gotten ours, I think, in April. They were born April 8th or 15th, if I remember right. And they all survived. We opened them up. It was so fun to like open them up and then raise the baby chicks. Okay, I'm looking for his, I realized, I think that the tip of his toe, just like the other guy, his toe is going to stick into frame. So I'm going to put his toe in here, and hopefully it will look like a toe and make sense. I don't know if it will. I think it will. It looks so far like it'll make sense. Like when you're looking at it, you'll be like, oh, look, that's his toe. So I'm going to put his toe in here. Kind of draw that guy in there. And I'm going to mark where his, let's see, he's got some striping going on. So I want to make sure I mark where those stripes come down in here. And then he's got a stripe right there. And then this is where all his fancy spiky hairdo is. He got into hair gel. So total hair gel. Any questions out there while I'm drawing? Anything you guys want to know? Looking in chat. Okay, I'll read it to you. Mid Lebowski saw a grown man baby talking to the chicks at Tractor Supply without any shame. Just a big grin on his face like a 5-year-old for 5 to 10 minutes. So they just started getting in. If you have a local feed store or Tractor Supply or something and you want your dose of absolute cuteness, go to the feed store. It is so fun to go to the feed store and watch the baby chicks and the baby ducks because they're just adorable and they're so loud. I think that's what always surprises me is those little guys are so loud. We raised them, and I don't ever want to give it up again. We raised ours. You have to keep them warm. You have to keep them under a heat lamp, and then you raise the lamp further away from them, and you have to gauge the temperature the older they get as they grow up. But they have to stay really warm. Like I can't remember. It was like I don't remember how warm it was. Well, we raised them in my downstairs studio. And let me tell you, I will never do that again. They say, don't do it in a garage, but we thought our garage was too cold, so we didn't do it in the garage. And chickens are filthy, nasty, dirty animals. They really are. They're a lot of fun. It's just awesome to have them, but they're very dirty. So of course, first of all, I wasn't able to work in there. I wasn't able to do anything. Our dogs at the time, we had a bird dog, and he recently passed away. But when they were little, was very curious about them. And he would come up, and I'd hold one up, and he'd get real close, sniff, 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 and he'd get his face almost there, and then it's like he lost his self-control. And he'd like go to chomp, and I'd pull the little bird back. Eventually, we got to the point where the birds crawled all over him, picked at his fur. He went out, watched over the chickens in the yard. Never had an issue with him, which is amazing for a bird dog. My husband always said he wasn't the brightest dog on the street, but I thought he was brilliant. And I loved that he just let the chickens, I have all these photos of him looking over the chickens or the chickens crawling on them. Pretty awesome. Let's see. How many art studios do I have? Well, let's just say right now 2. And then I spilled into the dining room. Does that make it 2.5? And then occasionally I'll spill into the living room because you can never have enough space. But I figured since my husband has the whole garage, then I might as well have half the house, right? I think that's only fair. No, we're working on it. This room I'm broadcasting from right now is the new studio, and I'm working on slowly cleaning out the other studio. Oh, we won't even count the closets that I've taken over. It's really shameful. I should be ashamed. Totally ashamed. I'm not really. Not really. So let's see. It is 6:50, and I think we're close to painting. I need to clean up a little bit. So shaky eraser can, clean out some of these lines. Let's see. I'll do a little more cleanup under his little arm that I redrew, and a little bit in here. Got his teeth. I have the apple. I have an idea of where the shadows are. Again, these shadows are really light, so just going to go in here, and I'm going to try to blend them and fuzz them out, but they're pretty light. And let's see. He has some wrinkles in this neck of his, so I want to know where they are, because when I paint this, it'll make my life a little easier to know where some of these things are. So I'm just trying to give myself some hints to go by. And I'm going to draw the bumpities on his eye right here. He's got these bumpities right there. And then this comes down. And there's that. And then over here on his back, I'm looking to see where this goes. So this comes down here, and this marking goes in there, right like that. So I have a good idea of where that all falls on this side. And I think that we are about ready to paint. So, okay, let's see. I know I can see Mid Lebowski's in chat. I know there's at least one more viewer. Here are options tonight for painting. We have 3. Okay, this is called gouache. And this piece was painted with gouache. All right? These are everyday, get them anywhere, student grade, Prang watercolors. So that is an option. Prang watercolors, gouache, or, believe it or not, just a 12 color set of colored pencils. Yeah, there's only 200 viewers tonight. This will be broadcast after, so other people will see it. We'll just say, there's 200 viewers right now. Everybody give me a poll. What would you like to see me paint with? So we can color it with colored pencils. We can paint it with the Prang watercolors, or we can paint it with the gouache. So anybody want to take a vote? What you want to see tonight as we close this out? Watching. Waiting for a comment. Okay. I am going to paint with, because I don't have a comment here, I'm going to go ahead and paint with gouache because I love it. And I think it's way fun to paint with, and it's a little more archival. I know that it'll last, and I can... Oh, now I get a watercolor. Now that I said I'm going to paint with gouache. Too late, Lebowski. Now I feel guilty. I'm like, well, I did get a vote for watercolor, so maybe I should do watercolor. I could switch it up and do... Let's... Oh, I don't have it up here. I don't think I have it up here. good watercolor set. Oh, because of spelling. Is that what it is? Gouache is hard to spell. Gouache has almost all the vowels. It has all but the I. So it's G-O-U-A, gouache, C-H-E. So it's missing, yeah, it's just missing the letter, the I. O-U-A and E. So A-E-I-O-U, it's missing the I. So I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to put, let's see, I'm going to move this over a little bit so that you can kind of see what I'm working on. I'm going to move my pencils and my eraser. And I'm going to put this over here because I want you to be able to see me mix some of these colors. So I will try to mix mostly on this side so that you can kind of see what I'm doing and what's going on. Okay, brushes, that, and I think a paper towel would be kind of handy. These are just blue shop towels. They can take quite a beating, so I like using them a lot. And I'm just gonna start painting him. Typically how I'll start is I'll work with some kind of yellow or yellows. I'm gonna look at what my light color is. I know that if I mix some white in with a little bit of this yellow and the ochre, so this is like a cad yellow medium, and this is gonna be a Naples yellow, which is more like a creamy ochre. If I take that and add a little bit of white, which is hard to tell because my white is so dirty, but that's white, then I can get kind of close to the color that is in his face and his highlights. So I'm just going to go in here and loosely lay these colors in here. Now, typically I'll start out with the thinner washes of gouache, and it paints just like watercolor. There's two types of gouache. There's designer gouache, which is a water-based gouache. Doesn't mean you have to use it for design. It's either usually called just gouache or design gouache. And then the other kind of gouache is called acrylic gouache. And the difference with that is that it's acrylic. So it's an acrylic medium in the gouache. So I'm going to go in here, paint his chest right there. You can water it down all the way to the consistency of like tea and really let it act like watercolor, which is a lot of fun. And you can also use it with watercolor. So I could also bring watercolors into this painting, and the gouache will just work really well with it without any issues. So just some thoughts for you if you ever wanted to try some gouache. Use what you've got while you're learning, especially. Just use what you have. If you've got, you know, a 12-pack of color pencils. I picked these up at the thrift store, I think for like 50 cents. So don't feel like it has to be the most expensive art supplies on the planet. Just use what you've got to start out with. You really only need it. When you're learning to draw, you could spend years just drawing with one 2B pencil, like a school pencil. That's all you need. And really just get good at it. Really work on your drawing. Okay, I have some little spots in here that I want to keep white for the highlights in this apple. You'll see there. And I'm really trying to go, what do I want to try painting next? I'm going to wet my brush, come in here, and I'm really looking at watering down. Like I said, it's the consistency of tea, and I'll layer up color on this apple. So I'm just going to come in here layer up this color on the apple. And start painting like this. And give it a base layer of color. I may, where it dry brushes, where it's running out of paint, I kind of like that. I'll put more colors on top of this. And if they overlap, that's just going to make interesting marks. So I'm just looking at, now I just covered up my little white area. The best part of that is that I can add more on top. It'll never be as luminescent as the white of the paper. So just something to keep in mind, wherever you can possibly keep your whites, try to keep them because it'll be a lot more luminous. But if it's not the end of the world if you don't. So I'm going to add now, I'm going over to this dinosaur on the right, and he has this golden yellow color right at the bottom of his neck, right in here. And I think it could be even more ochre yellow, add a little more white. And on his arms, his little arms are this color. So I'm going to color both of his little arms. Now the inside of his arms are going to be a little darker, so I'll probably darken that up as we go. But for right now, I'll just kind of color it that color. Up here comes up, and it's this middle area of his belly that has that great middle color. So I'm going to bring that into there. And then I'm looking to see, does he have a hint of it? Maybe a little hint in his face, maybe a little hint here and there in his spiky hair. It's more pink than anything. Do I see a little hint that I can put underneath his? I'll paint over these colors, but I'm just adding where a little hint of this color may show up. And likewise, do I see any of that over here? Can I bring some of that color into this other dinosaur? Does that make him more interesting? So I'm going to add a little bit of color over here. Right in there. Maybe bring a little bit right in there. And now I'm going to look and say, okay, what's next? What's interesting? What do I want to lay down and start to think about the layers of color? Where is all the color? What's underneath? So I'm going to come in here, and there is this beautiful pinky red. It's got a little bit of orange to it. So I'm going to mix a little bit of this. This is a bright red, and this is a cool pinky red. And I'm going to bring some of this in here. Now, it is mostly, I don't actually have a ton of it. It comes in here on his back and blends into that ochre-like color. So I'm going to blend those two together. And that's off the sheet. We won't even really see it. So I bring that in there. I might go ahead and put it underneath where that dark stuff is going to be. And I almost see, I think it would be fun to put it on the underside of his arm, on the inside. So we're just going to put that on the inside of that arm and maybe show a little edge right there. Then I'm going to go in here and add the color that I already had on my brush. I mixed some white, I mixed it in with the yellow to give it a really natural pink color. And I'm just going to put a base pink color on his tongue. And I'm going to start to look where these pink colors may be. So some of that was in here. And of course, a little bit in here. It is all through his spiky hair. So I'm just going to kind of pay attention to where it might be sitting and put a bunch in his spiky hair. And we're just going to be layering colors, and then the black will define everything, and we'll leave some of these pinks showing underneath to help give it a little more vibrancy and life. So I'm going to go around this eye, still adding this pink. Gives him a lot of warmth. He has some in his little jaw right here, the corner. Bringing it back in his hairs and dabbing it. It's not really solid. Top of his eye. And he's definitely got some red stripes on the top of his face. We'll be making different grays. And then, like I said, adding black. I'm going to put a little bit of it too along his spine in here. And we might bring some of that back out and leave it showing because I just think it's interesting. There's also, if I get the edge of my brush, he's got these scars in the side of his face. And I want to bring that color right in there. And that. I did go over his teeth accidentally. I'm going to clean that out. All I did was clean my brush on the paper towel, wiped it in the water, cleaned it off, and then I was able to just pull up the color that I laid over his teeth just to help. Okay. So we're starting to build some of this up. I'm going to introduce a green now. So I'm going to come back down in here. Oh, and let's take a look at this foot. There is a light cream color, really light underneath the dark. So I'm just going to lay some of that on his big old foot down at the bottom. And then I'm going to come in and take some of this light blue. I'm going to mix it with the yellow I already have in here. So often I'll just use whatever is on my palette and see what I can get. How close can I get to the colors that are on there? Picked up some real yellow. And I'm going to water it down like again, the consistency of tea so that I really just kind of get a base color in there. I might dab off my brush so I don't have so much pulled on the dinosaur. And I'm going to lay in, where is the green? This may not be the exact green. I will probably put a lot of colors of green on top, but I still want to give it a solid, big shape base of colors before I do more. So I'm going to go in here. There's his little head. Now, I got a little carried away at the top of his head, but we're just going to go with it. Go ahead and go inside the middle of this, in his eye, right here. It will get nice and dark in that little area in there. This little area up here. Around the bottom of this. And remember, we're just filling in big shapes. We're doing big blocks of color first, just like when we drew. So when we started drawing this at the beginning, what we were doing was circles and triangles and shapes so that we could fit all the pieces together. And now what we're doing is we're going in and we're blocking in color. So I'm trying to get the base colors. What's underneath? I'm asking myself these questions. What's underneath all of these things? And it does a couple things. It gives us a really good foundation of color. It helps us understand where everything is in the page, on the page. It also gives us a sense of accomplishment because there is nothing more frustrating than feeling like it's taking forever to paint something. Not everybody paints like this. So this is just how I paint. Some people will do one little section at a time. There is nothing wrong with that. I encourage everybody out there to make art the way you see fit. You are your own artist. So I'd really love you to just enjoy making art. However that looks to you. There is no right or wrong at all. There's basics that you can learn, practice your drawing skills, but do it your own way. Find your own path. Don't ever let anybody feel like you're doing something wrong. You're just discovering something, having a good time, and enjoying it. Okay. Again, I'm just laying in big swatches of color. There's that. His foot's going to be back there. That may come into play, but I doubt it. And now I'm going to go, okay, so I've got a little bit of green on my palette. I've got a little bit of red on my palette. What happens when I mix them together, add a little blue. Now we've kind of used all colors, and add white. Now I know looking at this that it's not quite right, but what I'm looking for is a gray. So I can come in here and start laying some grays in these areas that have a lot of gray. So his eyeball underneath in here. Add some gray in here. And his chin. Some underneath that space right there. Part of his nose. I can lighten this up. I can make a cream color if I want, lighten it up, add more details on top. Really, I'm just coming in here, again, covering my spaces. Now, I'm looking at his belly, right? So we came in here, we added some gray in here, looked at his neck, underneath here, some different colors that I've added. Put all this gray in, add some in the back of his head, and in here. Annie C49, is that a real apple? That's a good question. Do you think it's a real apple? And thanks for joining and commenting. That is actually a fake apple. I bought it at a yard sale. Oh yeah, I'm the lady running around. Actually, it was at a thrift store. It was at a thrift store in Pennsylvania. I'm the crazy lady who's buying fake fruit. So that is not a real apple. Let's see. Making like a creamish color for his belly, his underbelly. Just gonna bring that back to there. I see a little bit of it underneath here. And I can even start to add a little bit in on his face and around his face. So everybody who jumped in, it's nice to see you tonight. Thanks for joining. You are watching Friday Night Dinos, and we draw from 6 to 7, and we're working on a piece that you can see over here that I have in the corner, and it paints out. Here's an example of what we're painting. This is painted with gouache, spelled with all the vowels except for the I, Gouache. Hard to pronounce, hard to say, so fun to paint with. It is a water-based paint, and mixes with watercolors if you want to use watercolors with it. I'm painting a little bit of that juicy pink area in his little mouth right now, in the corner of his face, right there. Laying a little bit of that in there. I'm going to come back in and start to fill a little more color on this apple. So I'm going to get more red, and let's see how bright this red is. And I'm really going to watch my shiny parts. I want to preserve those shiny parts because they'll never be as shiny once I cover them up. Even if I use white, it still will always not be as radiant as it is if you can leave the white. Hard to do because I get crazy with the brush. So not the easiest thing in the world. How's everybody doing tonight? Did you have a good week? Nothing like hanging out, drawing dinos. All right. So coming in here, putting a little stuff in there. I'm going to leave some of that in a mark because it has like a little shiny edge under here. And I'm just adding another layer, a little thicker this time, a little more pigment on top of this apple. And working my way around. Now I will darken this red. I'll add a different kind of red. I'll bring some purple in at some point and really darken it up, but I'm just trying to make it interesting and get some of these different marks and layers of color in my apple, and you'll start to see it build up. All right. Love my 200 viewers. It's awesome. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit of darkness in, and boy, I do not have much black on this palette. I've used almost all, actually I didn't use it. Truth be told, it cracked in the palette. And now I didn't refill it yet. Some gouache is very, very crumbly and hard. And if you don't put enough in when you pour your palette, your pans, you may end up with what happened to me where it will crack. So you'll open your palette and then all of a sudden all your gouache is crumbled, and my black did that. And I tried my best to save it, but then I just gave up. So some brands will crumble less. I'm going to try a different brand tomorrow. I'm going to be teaching in Santa Fe, so we'll go to the art store and buy another brand of gouache. All right. 300 viewers now. Lebowski, you're so positive. All right. So like I said, I will mix right on my palette. Oh, and if you didn't know, black and yellow make green. So if you have some black on your palette and yellow, you don't necessarily have to use blue. You can use black to make green. Just fun fact out there. So I'm still building up some shadows and some color. I do want this a little cooler than warm, so I am going to add blue in it because I can see the difference. You can't see on screen. I have not managed to get the brightness just right yet on this camera. Like this apple looks darker on the screen than it does in person. Let's see, you wanted to go to Tractor Supply to see the baby chicks, but you didn't get there yet? Oh, they are the cutest things. But let me tell you, then you're going to have, like, you're going to want chickens, which have their perks, but they are messy. So if you don't like messy critters, I don't think that you'd like chickens. We let ours run around the yard. They're like any creatures. They like snacks. They're interested in new things. They're terrified of everything, like the hawks. Rightfully so. Hawks will eat chickens. So they've got lots of hiding places so that if they get a shadow coming from the sky, they can take off and run away. I have a really hard time going to Tractor Supply because I want to spend, like Mid Lebowski said, there's a grown man spending 10 minutes. They're just smiling and talking to the birds. That's me. I can't even help it. And then it's really, the baby ducklings, they are adorable. Baby ducks, I thought ducks would be kind of fun. And I think duck eggs, you get so much more. It's like 2 or 3 chicken eggs in a duck egg. I'm adding little fingernails, toenails, just to build some contrast right now, make it more interesting. This area where his mouth is, I'm just adding some darkness to define it so I don't lose track of where it is. It looks a little weird right now, but I promise you it will look better. You can look, Annie C can look, but is not permitted to bring them home. I don't even know what to say to that because, chickens are a big deal. They're a lot of work. So you got to check on them and you got to make sure they have. Got to keep them warm. Ours have a heater in their coop. So in the winter, we want to make sure that they're warm. Got to make sure they have food and water and they're not fighting all the time. They are, at the end of the day, they are small feathered dinosaurs. I'm convinced that they're just modern day dinosaurs. So that's probably why I like them so much. Because they remind me of dinosaurs. And we all know I like those. So I'm just working my way around this right now and filling in colors and things that are interesting. I'm going to try to fill his face up a little more with some darkness because he looks so weird over here. The other guy's starting to build up really nice. I'm going to add a little red, some dark black, and I'm just going to kind of put above his eye the shadow in here because it's nice and dark. So I want to start to build that out right in here and underneath. I don't want it too dark. Now I know that it looks like it's solid black on your screen. I assure you it is not. My saturation, the blacks are really looking dark right now. So, but I can't have it all. You're not fuzzy, so I'll take it. Hi, everybody who's here. I'm glad you are here. Lebowski's still talking about the person that they saw at the Tractor Supply. Baby chicks. It's baby chick season, so I have gone on and on about my chickens tonight because they're dinosaurs, And we're talking about going to Tractor Supply to see the chicks and talking to them, which inevitable that you will start chatting with the chickens. Okay. Let's see. Jumping in here, jumping in the back, adding more in here, a little more under here. He looks very vicious in my painting. I don't think he looks nearly as suspicious in real life. It could be because I haven't put a dot in his eye yet, and his eye is a little big, and it's missing there's a lot going on with this dinosaur. He's a bit of a mess, which is okay. We'll take a mess. So making like a creamy brown. I'm going to bring some gray into that. Lighten some things in here. Lighten up some areas. Really building up his jaw. And painting that. And we'll bring some of that color here soon into on top of his face. I think that's going to help a lot. I think really just defining this, the eyeball and the little line above his eye will probably help. I think what I'm going to do is put white above and then red on top. And I am just dilly-dallying tonight painting because this is taking me a while. Give him like some yellowish teeth here. Start filling some of these teeth in. And he also has a little bit of like a light above the red on his face and also above this eye up here. So I'm gonna make sure I add that in. And then just some lighter cream color in here in his belly. We'll get as far as we can tonight, and then I'll have to finish it. My spare time. Let's see, come in here, give him a little line right there. A little bit underneath this eyeball. Dot of color in there. I'm gonna put a little bit of a wash of color behind them, and then we'll start working on top. So I'm gonna make a neutral gray. I'll get my hand out of the way so you can kind of see what's going on over here. So I think I'll start with some blue. I added in red. And then if I add yellow, it's going to kind of neutralize the whole thing. Now it's leaning green. So I could add this reddish orange. Now it's going to lean red. I'll add more blue. And it's getting very dark. I want to gray it down, so I add white. And sometimes I'll take my brush and I'll hold it up against the background, and it really gives me an idea of what that background color is and if I'm too dark. So I can tell you right now, you can also do that with your palette. So I know that this background looks a lot greener than I would have guessed. And I can add more white, more yellow, and that's pretty close. So I just mixed all of that. I have a nice puddle, watered it down a bit. Now it is pretty dark, but the only way that you can see light is to add darkness. So if I add dark, now I want it lighter. I'm looking at it compared to his face. So I want it lighter than his face. It's not quite light enough, but I want it darker than the white that's on there, because that's how their teeth are going to show up. So really I'm playing a balancing act of the color. What color is that background? What will set him off so that I can see the difference? Okay. And then the way I work this typically is I'll start mixing the color and varying it. So I may say, I'm going to add a little blue. And I may just add just a tiny touch and say, oh, that wasn't quite enough. And now it's going to go greener. So when I lay this down, when it dries, you may not see it on this because the camera may not pick it all up, but it gives it like a little variation in the color. And you will see that the way light hits anyway. If you look at anything or a flat color, if your wall's one color and you light it in the room, really pay attention to that. Take a look at that, and you're going to see that it's going to vary depending on how the light's hitting it. So is it bluer? Is it more yellow? What color is it leaning towards? So I can go in here and add this. I want it too chunky. So come down here and add that in there. And how is it? It's going more blue. Now this side of my panel in my background is more blue over here. And then this side, which I don't know where my finger is in space under the camera, goes a little more on the green side. So I can mix blue and add it to this left side. And you can see a little bit of the difference between those two. And I'm really looking for that color shift, that little variations that give it life. Working those colors into each other, but then letting them shift as they change in the background. I'm painting in behind his teeth. So, like I said, this is a pretty big brush for me to do this. I am just asking for disaster. As soon as you introduce, now you can't see that it's a little darker in person, but I want enough darkness behind his teeth. I'm really looking at his teeth. What color are his teeth? How bright are his teeth? How much of a comparison to the background do I see? And as I paint that and change my colors, I'm really paying attention to things like that in my background. So come in here. So adding blues, and maybe too much, can add it into that mix, neutralize it a little bit, give it some variation. Now I had gotten wild with his head, so I cut his head down a little bit. Sometimes I'll just go in here and block it in. We can add some layers later. You guys have seen me in the past. I will paint vertically or it straight up and down. And I like working that way so that I don't draw at an angle. We'll see how it looks fine from the overhead camera. So I think I did okay as long as I can get over it enough. But even when I'm painting outside, I like to put my canvas as straight up and down in front of my eyes as I can so that I don't skew the artwork, so that it's not more narrow at the top and wider at the bottom when you stand it back up, because that causes me to get my drawing all cattywampus and off. Makes me crazy. Now, there is a line in between where they're standing on a platform in front of me and the background. And the platform they're on is a different color. But I don't want a big old line in my painting. I don't like it. I don't want that. So as I work my way down towards the bottom, and here I've made it a little greener, add a little more pink, add a little more blue, so it's not so green in here. What I'm going to do is change the color and shift the color and lighten it as I go lower. So over here, I added more, I need more water. So on the blue side, and I'll let these colors mix together. I'm not too worried about it. We need a smaller brush over here on this side. Clean his belly up. This lets me also clean up all my bonus pencil strokes, because there's a lot of bonus pencil strokes in this painting. So I'm going to come in here. If you get too tired and you need to go to bed, East Coasters, you can always download this on Twitch, or not download, but you can watch it on Twitch for the week after the broadcast, and it will live there. And then I will move it to YouTube, and it is going to be available as my past broadcasts are on FridayNightDinos.com. So you can download the artwork if you are learning to draw. You can download the artwork on FridayNightDinos.com. You can watch past broadcasts, get inspiration, surf around my website if you want. There's a lot of fun stuff on there, including like favorite tools, things I like to work with. And I'm just coming in here and lightening this up as I go down towards the bottom for both of these sides. So a little more on the blue side, a little more white in here, washing it down. Cleaning up some of my lines. And then at some point we're going to go in and add the shadows underneath. Go over here to my warm side, bring it into my cool side. We'll see how these all dance together. Bring some more layers in as we go, lighten things up, darken things up, make sure that they all work, they get along as we bring this top surface up. Still bringing some blue in. There's a little bit of blue left on my palette. Back here behind his leg. If you paint over something, like I just painted over his toenail, painted a little bit over his leg, I'm not worried about it because I'm just going to come back in and paint more detail on top. These dinosaurs are nowhere near finished. We'll get, let's see, it's 7:40 right now, so we have about 20 more minutes that we'll paint together. And of course you can see the finished one on Twitch, so you can see what the finished product looks like, very close to it. But this has quite a ways to go. I do not think that I will get close by the end of our painting hour. And again, I'm looking at how light is this color underneath his belly. I'll probably have to add some more contrast to his belly, or a little more darkness, because when I start to lay this in, I realize quickly how dark his belly is. And I'm also still looking too at these variations back here and the difference between his neck and the light behind him. The gouache will dry darker. And this actually starts to go blue again under here. So we've got some fun blues peeking down below. These are very subtle color shifts. And you will get, the more you paint and you look at colors and compare, you'll really start to see these subtle color shifts. The only way I can explain it is if you go to the paint store or the Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you buy paint to paint your house, and there's a whole color chip section. Did you ever notice you'll look at a color chip and you'll think, oh, it's this color. But if you get another color chip and sit it beside it, all of a sudden you're going to really, that is messing with my color. Hold on. Let's reset this color. You'll get a better feel for what this color actually is. Let's see if I can trick the camera. We're going to try to trick that camera. Not really. Whew, man. Oh, my YouTube channel. You can link to it from you can link to it from Friday Night Dinos, which is my website. And the YouTube link is on there. So you just click on the episode that you want and you'll go to my YouTube channel. It is Wendy Alm Fine Art on YouTube. But that's the easiest way. Just type in Friday Night Dinos and you'll get everything you need. And more. Okay. Let's bring up the contrast so they don't look so funny. They look so funny right now. So I've got a layer of everything everywhere. I'm just going to start adding paint and building it up and thickening it. So we're going to start in his nose. I'm going to try to finish his face and then maybe his face, and then we'll go in and work around in the next 18 minutes. So I'm adding a little more yellow and yellow-green up here on the top of his little eyeball, back here, in the back of his head. Now I'm going to try to mix a green that is somewhat close. So I'll first put a green together, and I used an ultramarine blue and a bright yellow. And I think that it was a little too yellow, a little too warm. There was too much yellow. So I went in and I added this other blue to it. And then if I feel like that's too bright, we will dull it down by adding a tiny bit of red. Add some of that in there and kind of gauge and see how dark it is, what it looks like. What does it look like sitting next to some other colors? And I want to darken it with some black too, actually. We're going to dull it up really nicely. So I'm adding black to my green. My little tiny bit of black. I'm going to add this on his nose in here. Bring this down. And then lighten up across the top. So I added some white. I still kept it cool, almost like a turquoise color in the top of his face. And then I'm going to go in with that light color again and bring that above here on his face. And blend it in the back of that light yellow. And really kind of look and say, okay, where else does that color go? Where can I put that color? What does it belong to? I'm going to go in here. Put some back behind his mouth right there and some up under there. And I do think that the top of his face needs a little bit of lightness still. So really starting to form this out. And you can start to see where I've got more mid values and darks. This guy's starting to look okay. He's not there yet, but he's getting there. A little closer. So I'm going to add some black, a little more red to this, and some black. And go in here. And add this darkness underneath there and that fabulous little divot. Top of his mouth. And it gets really nice and dark underneath those teeth. He's got a fantastic little line that defines the bottom of his face. And then underneath his jaw, we're going to do really underneath his jaw. And I'll blend that in because it grays itself out and blends in. So we'll get a little bit of this cream, gray in here. I'll rinse my brush. I come in here and clean this up, just adding water and smoothing it out so it blends into each other right there. And I'm really going to look at this neck now. Where are the dark areas? Where are the big chunky shadows in his gabbly neck? Where can I put the darkest marks? Add some blue, add some black, add some green. Draw these in where my pencil lines were. Right along this line, he's got this fantastic dark denty line there. Down in here, there's a little mark right in there. Underside of his little arm, really nice and dark. So starting to bring this out a little bit. Now, top of his mouth is not quite, like this is a little greener. Not totally dark, but definitely darker than what I have there. Smooth some of that out. Add some little dots. Add some information like that in his face. This down here under his mouth and above there needs some more darkness. It's too light. So there's a little light edge right there. And then these come down. We'll lighten up where those chompers are too. Then I'm going to come in here. And you'll see, you can start to see, when I look up and I look at the screen, I can start to see this guy coming together. He was really in mid-value neutral for a while, which, thank you. Thanks for getting the link to my YouTube channel. You can find that right in the chat. If you want to go see, there are some older videos you can watch me paint when time lapse, but I do have a section called Friday Night Dino, so the week sat up fast, let me tell you. All these Fridays are going to add up, and we'll have a lot of content in 6 months or so. Endless hours of drawing opportunity! So fun! All right, adding a little more darkness on the back of his head. Bring that in here. He's got all these bumpities. I'm not going to do every little bumpity, every little detail. I'm just going to kind of do a hint of what's going on in there. Come down here, here. What's going on with these little guys. Add some variation so you can kind of start to see this head develop and come together. Same within here. I need to do a wash for a mid-tone, but darker than what it is, but not near as light as it is right now. And then the front of that mouth is really dark, and it looks like I've just completely neglected it. So we're gonna go in here and get the front of his jaw. I think once the camera has enough variation too, it really helps show it all. It adjusts the light. I'm still working on this, everybody, so just be patient with me. 52 episodes from now, I'm going to be really good at this. But right now, I'm not. So we're just going to go with it. I get the new card. At least for a while, I got the new card. His beady little eye. Let's give him an eyeball in here. Gives him a little more personality. In the front of his face. And then his nostril goes all the way to the end of his nose. And we've got more dark stuff down here. And it spills into everything. Okay, coming in here, out in the back of his arm. You know I'm totally going to pull a cooking show at the end of this. Because what I'm going to do, this ought to be fun. I'm just going to pull the other one out like I finished it, which is going to be hysterical. So funny. It's late on a Friday night. We're painting dinos, and I'm getting giddy. So sadly, we will not get through this. I'm usually really good about keeping this to 2 hours, but this guy has me in a pickle. It is taking a while for him tonight. So unfortunately, we won't finish this in this broadcast, but through the magic of television, you will get to see the finished artwork. It'll be a lot of fun. Okay, giving him some toenails over here on his sneaky little toe that's inside here. So you can kind of start to see this guy I've brought up. It's not completely done. Of course, I've ignored all the little denties in his teeth, which probably would be a good idea for me to add so that you can see where the teeth are falling. I'll make them look really chompy to put those shadows in there. Fun and chompy. So I'm going to add those teeth in, the little shadows in between, so we can at least get one dinosaur head somewhat close. It's so easy for me to I get excited. I'll get distracted. So I'll be working on this, and then like I saw that little chunky part that I like that's over here between right here. I'll just do it. I'm just going to paint it. I can't even help myself. And I get all excited about that chunky piece. And then I want to go in there and paint it. So I get distracted easily. Add a little more. You can see a little more definition now with those teeth. The other thing I did was I got really carried away with his eye when I did the black around it. And I got rid of too much of the little yellow section. It needs just a little bit more, and I think it'll make them look friendlier. So I'm gonna do that. I need to clean out some of the paint from my palette so that I can make it pink. And come in and put a little bit of light pink in here. Now it doesn't look pink, so we'll add some red and add a little more. Not quite there yet, but it's getting closer. It's so funny to see his body half done. It's like he's in some limbo land. Like you'll see him start to dissolve into light paint on the left. I'm gonna add a little bit of darkness under this belly right there. And I am intentionally avoiding for right now all those ridges in the top of his little body because I know it's going to take me a while. So that is a late night later project. All right, so we're going to do this. I'm going to add a little more. Now you'll see I make a mess of my palette. Total mess. Then I end up just using those colors and mixing them in with things. So like I wanted to come in here to define this right here a little better and bring this color a little, like I think I took it too close there in the bottom of his mouth. It still needs a little hint of that green underneath, but it was just too much. Didn't have enough going on there, so I'll just come in here and do a nice little wash for some highlight kind of greenish areas, light color areas. So it's like a yellow green that I'm adding on the back of his head, just a little bit, so you know where some of these divots, that there's little layers and colors. And when you're painting, the more you add like that's just, it rounds it out, it fills it up, it gives it a little more life. So it's really nice to see that as you add more color and layer to your paintings to make it really feel full and round. I'll add a little more purple, add just some darkness to this apple so you can kind of see what I was thinking and where it will go. I will start to add, there's a shadow, and you can't think of it like an apple. You really have to look at, there's patterns all over this. This is shiny, it looks real, but it's not. We've established that it's not, it's a fake apple. And I'm going to come in here and really pay attention to what these colors look like, changing them up, making the shadows and the divots and the dimples and variations as I layer color, and really trying to preserve where those white spots are on the apple so that it looks shiny. If I can manage to preserve those, that's half the battle. Because I don't want to have to paint them in again. So I know that this has a little darker area, and it's even purple than I would think right in here. There's a nice little, I don't know, it's like a little mark like that, but then it works itself into red. So it bleeds itself into not as dark, and then I see a shape. So I'm looking for what are the shapes of these pockets of color? How do they merge into each other and really add them together? I'm going to add this down here. Where does this, what comes into this little guy right here? There's some brighter orange that goes over here. And in doing this, I'm also, I'm watching how the lines wrap around this apple. And you can tell, you can notice, you should be able to see it's starting to turn and form and really look like an apple. All right. It is time. So I did not finish tonight's artwork, but through the magic of television, let me show you what we got. So there is a finished one. Kind of give you a difference. His head is very well formed, way more than this guy. This guy was a lot quicker and rougher than the one above it, but you can kind of see where both of these dinosaurs will go and have gone. And I hope you enjoyed tonight. I hope you make lots of great art. Thank you all for watching, and hold on, I've got one thing left before I say goodnight. Thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. for Friday Night Dinos. I also do Tuesday night art tool tip, so you can always drop in Tuesday nights from 7 to 8 to find out about new cool art tools and all the fun things that you can do with them. So with that, I'm going to try to hit the button with a growling fit.